Are you a dad? Are you worried that your glory days are behind you? Is your midlife crisis drawing you to the wonderful world of motorcycling? Well, then you're probably looking at two different kinds of bikes. Either a gigantic ADV bike like the BMW R1250 GS, or a touring bike like the Goldwing. Since we already know that the GS for Ewan McGregor wannabes, let's take a look at the Goldwing. This has been Honda's golden goose since 1975 and given dads past their prime something to live for. Okay, yeah, we know the Goldwing is the end-all be-all of dad bikes, you say. Also, I'm a 20-something wannabe street Rossi. The only thing I care about is R3 versus Ninja 400. Well, my myopic little squid, there's a lot of different bikes out there. You should check them out. But let's be honest, everyone on two wheels knows about the Goldwing. Not only that, but the Goldwing is so prolific that Microsoft Word automatically capitalizes it. You know you're a big deal when even Windows knows about you. Not to mention Shade Tree Surgeon is cornering the market on ye old G-Wing content with not one but two separate Goldwings. Talk about a dude with some exotic taste. So let's take some time and break down one of the biggest motorcycle models ever made. There's a lot to cover when it comes to the Goldwing, so let's jump straight in. In 1972, the big brain evil geniuses at Honda started a secret project called M1. It was a bike based on the CB750, but with a longitudinal 1470cc flat 6 crammed into it. It was putting down 80 horsepower and could top out at 140 miles per hour. Yeah, it doesn't sound like a lot nowadays, but this was back when the Bonneville was still contending and topping podiums at the Isle of Man. Once they figured out how to make it work, they moved on to Project 371, which lopped two cylinders off the bike and made it a little more rideable. This would go on to be the GL1000, the first Goldwing. The GL1000 had a 999cc flat 4, putting down 80 horsepower and 63 foot-pounds of torque, weighing in at 584 pounds dry, so call it 630 pounds in running order. In its first year, Honda sold 13,000 Goldwings in the US alone. The Gen 1 ran until 1979 with a bunch of little changes here and there, like bigger carbs, better brakes, and a limited version with some extra doodads like saddlebags. The second generation saw a jump to 1085cc's with a little more power, but it was a little outgunned by bikes like the Suzuki GS1000 and the Kawasaki Z1300. This was the first model of Goldwing to get the Aspencade version. It was the full dresser variant with a massive fairing, saddlebags, top box, LCD instrument panel, and other goodies. The third gen, released in 1983, was then things started to really get good. They bumped the displacement up to 1182cc's, making 94 horse and 84 foot-pounds of torque. And by the way, you can use foot-pounds and pound-feet interchangeably because math. One of the problems with previous model year Goldwings is that they were just kind of a pain in the butt to work on. So rather than making them simpler to fix, Honda just made it so that they broke less often. They added hydraulic tappets to their valves, which helped keep the valves in spec basically forever. And since it was carbureted, if you had the right jets and gas in the bike, it would just keep on trucking. The bike weighed in at exactly one beached whale, with the Aspencade tipping the scales at 728 pounds dry. Between oil and almost 6-gallon gas tank and the big gulp in the cup holder, you're talking close to 800 pounds before rider weight. In order to make the bike steer a bit easier, they reduced the size of the rear tire, which helped a bit, but something tells me if you're out there looking at yourself a 1980s Goldwing, you're not looking to set any lap records. If you splurge for the top-of-the-line Aspencade, you got a Panasonic audio system with AM/FM radio, a cassette player, and a built-in intercom for rider and passenger. Again, you might be laughing at this now, but back in the day, this was spaceship-level stuff. Also, fun fact, this is the bike that Shade Tree picked up not too long ago. You guys should definitely go and check out his videos. I'm gonna gloss over Gen 4 and 5, so if you wanted the skinny, you best pay attention. Gen 4 ran from 87 to 2000 and saw a bump to 1520cc's and 2 more cylinders. The flat 6 Goldwing was also the first one to break 100 horsepower. It was still carbed, and it looked like this. Oh, and it had an electronic reverse, pretty handy if you park this behemoth on a hill. Gen 5 was the first fuel-injected Goldwing if you don't count the limited edition Gen 3, which we're not. This one saw another bump in displacement to 1832cc's and 118 horsepower with 123 foot-pounds. It was the first Goldwing to feature ABS, pretty handy if you needed to stop this barge on a dime. You'd still miss the dime, but hey, you wouldn't tuck the front, so there's a silver lining in everything. Lastly, this was the first generation of Goldwing to be offered with an optional airbag, just in case you wanted your motorcycle to be even even more like a car. As a sister bike to the Goldwing, Honda released the Valkyrie in 1997, which was a muscle cruiser-looking bike with more aggressive cams and a freer-flowing exhaust to increase performance. They landed like an eggy fart in a full elevator, but it has a full cult following. They tried again in 2003 with the Rune, which is what you get when you ask Hot Wheels toy car designer to make the next Goldwing. Finally, we've reached the pinnacle of touring dad bike life with the 6th gen Goldwing. This is the model that you'll see in showrooms today. It's packing an 1832cc flat 6, putting down 125 horse and 125 foot-pounds of torque. Balanced, like all things should be. It's got a 7-speed gearbox with 6 forward gears and 1 reverse, shaft drive, and a staggering 928 pounds wet and ready to ride. What's crazy is they had to work some suspension wizardry to make the bike rideable with double wishbone system where you turn the handlebars, you actually turn a pair of steering arms, which then turn the forks, and not only that, but the suspension up front is a single shock buried under a million layers of plastic. But again, who cares about corner carving abilities on a Goldwing? You're here for the features. It's got a giant infotainment system up front with more buttons and gizmos than an F-18 fighter jet. We're talking rider modes, traction control, navigation, adjustable windscreen, Bluetooth, fancy speakers, and the works. I'm pretty sure that if you punch in the Konami code on the dashboard, the bike will literally take off and just fly away on its own. You've got the standard Goldwing for $23,900, which doesn't have a top box and passenger backrest, and the G-Wing Tour for $28,300, which is fully decked out with all the passenger accommodations. If you're so inclined, you can get the Goldwing with the DCT system, which normally I would be against, but in this segment, I think it makes a lot of sense. So clearly, the Goldwing is the gold standard in touring motorcycles, but is anyone actually brave enough to challenge this mighty steed? Actually, yeah, there's a lot. As it turns out, there's lots of manufacturers that want a bite of that sweet, sweet boomer pension retirement money. BMW has their K1600 line, which has the GT and the GTL, which are more sport touring oriented, and the B and the Grand America, which look an awful lot like the Goldwing and the Goldwing Tour. It's powered by a 1649cc inline 6, putting down 160 horsepower and 129 foot-pounds of torque, 70% of which is available at 1500 RPM. It's got all the touring features you'd expect, ABS, cruise control, heated seats, and so on, but it's also got dynamic electronic suspension adjustment to smooth out your ride on the fly. What's interesting is that BMW really wants you to think of the 1600B as a bagger, which is a little odd to me. When I think bagger, my mind automatically jumps straight to Indians and Harleys with big air-cooled engines that make a lot of noise, not these sedans on 2 wheels. I guess in that sense the Goldwing is a bagger as well, but I somehow don't think I'll be seeing a patched up 1%er on a Goldwing outside of Coyote Ugly anytime soon. The K1600B will run you a cool $23,195, and the Grand America is $26,295. For the extra money, you'll get a Bluetooth audio system, engine protection just in case you want to chuck it down a trail, a taller windscreen, and a top box. Now, if you're debating between the Beamers or the Hondas, don't forget that not only will a BMW require you to wear a one-piece highlighter yellow banana suit or it won't run, but you'll also need to take it to that one BMW shop in town for every little thing. No one does their own maintenance on a BMW. They just load it up in a trailer and take it in every few months for an oil change. Don't be a BMW guy, get the Honda. If you want to stay in the big four, Yamaha will sell you either the Star Eluder for $22,499 or the Star Venture for $26,999. And if you're wondering if those are the same bike but one has a top box and a taller windscreen, you'd be right. You get a cookie. It's coming in the mail right now. It should arrive between tomorrow at 10 a.m. and Friday. But however, the Goldwing and the Star line has a big old 1845cc air-cooled V-twin, putting down 126 foot-pounds of torque. It's got a depleted uranium frame, lead-lined saddlebags, and rims forged in the heart of a dying star. At least I think it does. Otherwise, I'm not sure how they managed to make it weigh over 950 pounds. Now, while its engine might not be as sophisticated as the Goldwings, you do get ride-by-wire with cruise control, traction control, and 2 power modes. The Venture model has a 7-inch touchscreen that'll allow you to scroll through the settings, interact with your phone via Bluetooth, and all sorts of car-like distractions that you really don't need when you're riding a motorcycle. The Star bikes are cool, but if you're going for a V-twin competitor to the Goldwing, you might as well just get a Harley. Speaking of which, the Harley Road Glide is probably the only competitor on this list that can match the Goldwings in terms of sheer icon status. The Road Glide is basically the King Dick Harley, and while the Indian Challenger is a better bike, it just doesn't have the curb appeal of a blacked out Road Glide. It's a classic, an icon for a reason. You don't get the top box on this one, but it is cheaper at $21,699, which is not something I'd ever thought I'd be saying about a Harley, but then again, the Pan America exists, so who the hell knows? You get an infotainment system, speakers, cornering ABS, traction control, drag torque control, which is basically a slipper clutch, and hill hold. It's a little smaller than a Goldwing with only 1753 cc's and 111 foot-pounds of torque, but you do get that authentic Harley experience. And while this is a subjective point, it is nice to see a lot of metal on the bike. The Honda is lighter at 787 to the Harley's 855, but since the bike's not meant to carve up a corner, I'd rather it be heavy and metal than light and plasticky. You have to co-sign on being a Harley owner, but the Road Glide is probably the most common alternative to Goldwing out there, and it has a cult following for a reason. So if you've made the decision to eschew the leather daddy lifestyle and the high-vis nerd BMW lifestyles and get a Goldwing, what are some of the common problems you might encounter? None. It is a Goldwing. You literally cannot kill it. People complain about phantom clutch levers on the DCT version when they reach for the clutch out of habit, or that some of the internal areas are hard to get to when you need to service the bike, but otherwise, Goldwings are essentially immortal and you'll probably pass them down to your grandkids. If you want to ride to the horizon and back, there's literally no bike better on the market. The Goldwing is an icon for a reason. Fact. The number 4 is the only number with the same number of letters as the meaning of its name. Goodbye.
You've made it to the end of a Yammie Noob video. Did you like what you saw? Do you want to see more of it? Check it out, right here, just like magic, waiting for you. Click this little square, right here, more memes, more Yammie, more of my face. Isn't that great?